tell us about other ways that you think the original Constitution was not sufficiently democratic, and why is it that you supported a new constitutional convention every generation so that we, the people, could once again, in a democratic way, decide for ourselves how we should be governed? Because as you put it so memorably, the earth belongs to the living.
Well, more of my specific issues with the original Constitution, and I will include now what we call the Bill of Rights, though technically it's not a Bill of Rights, it's just the first 10 amendments. A Bill of Rights proper has to precede the constitutional document. Those first 10 amendments took steps in the right direction, but we still left out protection against monopolies. I specified we ought to have an amendment for that. We still left out an explicit protection against standing permanent armies. There is an implied protection against it in the refunding of the military by our Congress, but I believe that without an explicit protection against permanent standing army in the hands of the national government, that the Second Amendment would lose its teeth. Because the Second Amendment establishes that the well-regulated militia is necessary to the security of a free people. Well, the militia means that the states have control over the military, not the national government, not the general government. That, to me, is taking the power, not guaranteeing the power of the military in the hands of the states is as dangerous as Alexander Hamilton's taking the power of the purse strings out of the hands of the states, and in his case of his bank, putting it in the hands of a very small group of very wealthy people. I would add that my objections to the Federalists extend not only to believing that they are monarchists, but also that they mistook the rights of property for the rights of the people. And those who study John Marshall's opinions will see that he increasingly over the years gave the rights of property and the right more credence, more power, more justification, and therefore more of his opinions than the rights of the people. As to why I think we ought to have a new constitutional convention every 20 years is the number that I calculated, but every generation. It's because no generation has the right to bind any future generation. This may at first sound contradictory to you when I begin to make this statement, but bear with me for a moment. I hope that future generations can look at me as primitive. I also hope that they can look at my countrymen as primitive, at Dr. Franklin, at John Adams as being primitive, even at George Washington as being primitive, definitely at Alexander Hamilton as being primitive, and all of us. Because if future generations can look at my generation as being, maybe they can respect us. I hope for me personally, maybe 3 things that I've done, which means I don't think they have to respect everything that I've done. They have a responsibility to judge me as they will be judged by future generations. If they can respect a few of the things that I've done, maybe they'll stand up to the examination of posterity, but yet still understand and know through their study of my life and my generation that compared to future generations, we're primitives. That will mean that future generations have improved, or not become perfect, that's not possible, but become more perfect. I think that's all we can hope for. I put it a different way in a letter to one Mr. Samuel Kercheval on the 12th of July of 1816, where I said that we might as well require a man to wear still the coat which fitted him when he was a boy, as a civilized society to remain ever under the regimen of their barbarous ancestors.
Fascinating. You said so much that was important in that answer, including, and I just want to emphasize it so our friends note it, your strong opposition to monopolies, and you would have proposed a constitutional amendment prohibiting Congress from establishing monopolies because you thought that they were exclusive privileges that favor the rich over the working people. And that also was part of your call for a constitutional convention that would ensure that the earth belongs to the living. We have so many more questions and not a lot of time, but